Good morning. Good morning. And welcome to worship with the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ventura. I am the Reverend Dana Warsnop, minister of this abundantly loving, a little shaken, though brave and strong community of resistance and resilience. We gather to keep love at the center of our lives and the way we move in the world. It is so good to see you all here together in this sanctuary. And however you got yourself here, whether walking, rolling, online, Zoom, or YouTube, we are glad that you have joined us. We are a community of many beliefs, identities, origins, sexualities, and genders, and all are welcome here. All are welcome here. On this day, most especially, there may be some who are new here. I know that in 2016, the similar day, we had people who didn't know where else to go and what else to do. And here we are together. And on this day before Veterans Day, I invite us to pause for some moments to remember all those who have served in the military in defense of this country. Whether enlisted or drafted, these men and women were asked to possibly give the last full measure of their lives. And whatever our view of the wars and conflicts they served in, they deserve our honor and our gratitude. It is so good to be with you all and see you all. This sanctuary filling up again. We were all here together yesterday for a memorial service for Susan Szymanski, and we were packed to the rafters, and knowing what a strong and vital community this is gave me so much solace and hope and confidence that we can move forward together. Confidence in the power of community, so thank you for extending it further here this morning. A couple of announcements. There will be our annual craft fair after church on Sunday, October 17th, out in Berg Hall. Did I say September? Wow. I wrote October, and did I say September? Whatever. No, let's get into the present. Thank you. November 17th. And great place to get crafts from church members and some people in the community. Also on Sunday, November 24th, there will be the VIMA, Ventura Interfaith Ministerial Association's annual Thanksgiving service. It'll be in the plaza at Mission San Buenaventura at 3 p.m. And yes, again, there will be pie. If you want to bring some, that would be lovely. And finally, though this slipped, I think, very quietly under all the other swirly things that were going on, I will be holding a new to UU class after church in the green room, which is straight back that way. Nobody got any, if you saw it in UUCV this week, yay. But otherwise, nobody got any kind of announcement about that. So join me. We may be small, we may be grand, and learn a little bit more about this church and this faith, if you are so inclined. Again, it is such a gift to be here with you all. Within these walls, which have known so much joy, so much sorrow, so much laughter, care, and community. Let us enter sacred space.
I'm Worship Associate Sandy Atkins. We invite those who are Zooming or streaming into the service to light a chalice or candle at home as Reverend Dana lights the chalice of our free faith here in the sanctuary. We begin our service by taking comfort and inspiration from 3 of the new value statements from our Unitarian Universalist Association Purposes and Covenant.
I knew they were saying something to me. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love.
Justice. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive. We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. We support the use of inclusive democratic processes to make decisions within our congregations, our association, and society at large.
Transformation. We adapt to a changing world. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to our Unitarian and Universalist heritages. Never complete, never perfect.
Equity. We declare that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. Come, let us worship together.
I'm Music Director Carolyn Bierke, and I would like to invite you all to join in singing our opening hymn, There Is More Love Somewhere. The words will be on the screen, so there's no hymnals in your seats. Just please rise in body or spirit and join in singing.
More peace.
more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
Good morning. My name is Lily Rappaport. I'm the Director of Family Ministry, and now is the time that we're going to call all those young or young at heart to come join me in the front for today's story. We're waiting for one other. Welcome, come join us.
Hey, hey, hey.
So today's story is going to be about a community who build and grow together. It's called The Last Tree by Emily Hayworth Booth. Once upon a time, a group of friends were looking for a place to live. The desert was too hot, the valley was too wet, and the mountains was too windy. Nowhere was quite right until they saw the first tree. In the forest, all summer long, the friends lived and played amongst the trees and slept on the mossy ground. When winter came, the breeze turned colder. They took some branches for firewood. But where they had taken branches, the rain came through and put out their fires. They chopped down some trees to build shelters, but that made the forest colder. So they cut down more trees to turn their shelters into cabins. Soon it seemed that the more wood they took, the more they needed to take. When summer returned, there weren't enough trees to shade them. A few more branches made very pleasant porches, and people became skilled carpenters. They worked hard to make the perfect village. But when the autumn winds came through again, they whipped through the spaces where the trees used to be, throwing all the villagers' work into disarray. They needed a new plan, one that would solve their problems forever. Let's tie down the town. Let's tie everything down. That will never work. Well, we have to do something. We need more wood. So they cut down all the trees still standing. All that is, except one last tree that was no good to anyone. And you see they're taking it down here. Person says, "Oh, leave it. It's really more of a weed." And with all the wood, they built a wall. And how proud they were of it when it was done. At last, the place was really just right. Wasn't it? But with nothing to look at but the wall, something happened to the people. They started to forget their games and songs, and soon the villagers had walls around their hearts. The neighbors looking at me strangely. I think they're jealous of our cabbages. Fence in the garden. Board up the windows. It had taken all the wood they had to build the wall, and so, before too long, each parent said the same thing to their child. We need to stay inside and guard the house. So take this axe and go beyond the wall to that last tree, the one that was tiny and weak like a weed, and then chop it down. Bring back the wood. Get it before the neighbors do. So the children went beyond the wall, and they found each other by the little tree, and they forgot their task. They laughed and played and sang and tended the tree, gathering its seeds. And each day, the tree grew a little taller and prouder, and the children knew that they could never cut down that last tree. Each night, the children talked about the tree and how it made them feel, but their parents wouldn't come outside to look or even to listen to them. The children knew that the children knew what they had to do, and they started to bring home wood. But it wasn't from the last tree. When it was delivered, plank by plank, their parents didn't even question why it was so long and straight and smooth. And they said, "Oh, this'll do just fine." They boarded and banged and fenced and reinforced and never once looked out. It was only when the wind rushed into their village, rattling their boarded up windows and knocking down their new fences, that they ran outside and saw that despite all their new wood, the last tree still stood. In daylight, they remembered that they were friends, not enemies. When they heard their children playing around the tree, they were reminded of how things used to be. They understood what they had done and how perhaps they could begin again. What fun they had taking down the wall. How proud they were when it was all done. As they planted the seeds, they talked and sang, and as the children grew, a new forest grew with them. And the last tree became the first. And now we're going to form a bridge of love in the center aisle here. If you're new, just follow along. We'll sing the children out to their classes.
Oh my, but the choir is harmonizing especially beautifully this morning. Thank you. Harmony. Let's get as much of it as we can wherever we can. Each Sunday, this congregation gives away our collection to an organization in the larger community or to funds that help people in our own church or those who come knocking at our doors. Those who are at home have two ways to give. You can, if you're on Zoom, you can click on the link that will be posted in the chat, or you can text to give to the number that is on the screen. Those in the sanctuary, please text to the number on the screen, or you may place cash or checks in the box at the back of the sanctuary after the service, if you would wait, please. Our offering today goes to Planned Parenthood to provide quality health care to everyone, regardless of their ability to pay. Here, in her own words, is a story from Stephanie, the young woman on today's slide. When I was 19, my boyfriend and I went to Colombia. While we were there, I found out I was pregnant. I felt isolated, afraid, and alone. I didn't know who to turn to or where to go. The only thing I did know was that I was not ready to bring a child into this world. Abortion is illegal in Colombia, but unlike the women there, I was able to return to the United States. I was 7 weeks along, so a medical abortion was a good option for me. If I had stayed in Colombia, I would have had to find an alternative way of terminating the pregnancy, possibly endangering my own life. Since then, Even here in the United States, we need to protect our reproductive rights. Politicians are trying to take away a woman's bodily autonomy. The barriers, especially for low-income women, are horrible. And so we need to support these rights and services for all women. Stephanie returned to college, got involved in Voices for Planned Parenthood, which works to make Planned Parenthood services available widely. And today, you have the opportunity to help too by giving generously, as you always do. We are ever and always so grateful for the generosity of this congregation, which is one of the threads that we weave in a tapestry of love that we call community. Thank you.
The time in our service when we hold up the great joys and sorrows that grace our lives. We place stones in the water for both the celebrations and sorrows in our lives, making ripples that are felt throughout our community. You can submit a joy or sorrow for sharing via a link in our website, uuventura.org, or a link in our Thursday email bulletin, UUCV This Week. Those received by 8 p.m. on Saturday are shared on Sunday morning. Here are the joys and sorrows and concerns that were shared with us this week. First, let us hold in our hearts all the people whose lives, health, and homes have been threatened or devastated by the mountain fire, including many of our own dear friends and members. I invite you now to speak into the gathered community or write into the Zoom chat the names of those you wish to celebrate, memorialize, or bring into the loving embrace of this community. Reverend Dana will now place one final stone in the water for all the joys and sorrows just shared and those yet unspoken in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. May we be truly grateful for all that is our life.
Our next song is Sanctuary, and the words are going to be on the screen. If it's not familiar, we're going to sing it 3 times through, so just join in once you feel like you're getting the hang of it. All right. Make us aware we are a sanctuary, each made holy, loved right through with thanksgiving. We are a living sanctuary anew. Make us aware we are a sanctuary, each made holy, loved right through with thanksgiving. We are a living sanctuary anew. Make us aware we are sanctuary, each made holy, loved right through with thanksgiving. We are a living sanctuary anew.
Our reading this morning in 2 voices comes from a letter to a young activist during troubled times by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. Mis estimados queridos, my esteemed ones, do not lose heart. We were made for these times.
So many of us are deeply and properly bewildered, concerned about the state of affairs in our world. It is true, one has to have strong cojones and ovarios to withstand much of what passes for good in our culture today. Ours is a time of almost daily jaw-dropping astonishment and often righteous rage over the latest degradations of what matters most.
You are right in your assessments. The luster and hubris some have aspired to while endorsing acts so heinous against children, elders, everyday people, the poor, the unguarded, the helpless, is breathtaking.
Yet, I urge you, ask you, gentle you, to please not spend your spirit dry by bewailing these difficult times. Especially do not lose hope. Because the fact is, we were made for these times.
Yes, for years we have been learning, practicing, been in training for, and just waiting to meet on exactly this plane of engagement.
In any dark time, there's a tendency to veer toward fainting over how much is wrong or unmended in the world. Do not focus on that. Do not make yourself ill with overwhelm.
We are needed. That is all we can know. And though we meet resistance, we more so will meet great souls who hail us, love us, and guide us. In the language of aviators and sailors, ours is to sail forward now, all balls out.
Yet ours is not the task of fixing the entire world all at once, but of stretching out to mend the part of the world within our reach. Any small, calm thing that one soul can do to help another will help immensely.
One of the most calming and powerful actions you can do to intervene in a stormy world is to stand up and show your soul. Soul on deck shines like gold in dark times. Struggling souls catch light from other souls who are fully lit and willing to show it. I invite you now into a time of meditation. Close your eyes if you wish and place your feet on the floor if you're comfortable doing so, and simply breathe. Here, arriving fully in this sanctuary. How does your soul shine even now? A silent meditation. Woof. What a week it's been. What a week. We were made for these times, Clarissa Pinkola Estes tells us. I chose her words for this service weeks ago, aware that this would be the Sunday after a momentous election. But momentous how? No one knew, and most who tried to prognosticate did not predict this particular outcome. A clear victory, if not a sweeping mandate for the Republican Party and Donald Trump in both the Electoral College and the popular vote. I thought that there was a good chance that we wouldn't know anything, even by today, which would bring its own kind of dismay and anxiety. We'd had one kind, and then we'd have another, and we do, but it's not, well, yeah. And yet, whatever the results would be, I knew we would also still have work to do, which brought to mind this cartoon, which I think I first saw in 2016. A child asks, but what if they lose? The response, then we keep fighting for the rights of all people. And if they win, oh dear girl, it's the same answer. No matter the outcome, we will keep fighting for the rights of all people. Now, I know that both Sandy and I loved sharing a reading with you that included the words cojones, ovarios, and balls. And I have been told that Clarissa may not have actually had quite the right word, and it is more common to say huevos. Which are in the ovarios, so we're good. Yet I ask how many of you felt inspired by that reading? Did any feel exhausted? How about both? Woof. Yet listen again to this part. Ours is not the task of fixing the entire world all at once, but of stretching out to mend the part of the world within our reach. Any small, calm thing that one soul can do to help another will help immensely. So I will focus on some small, calm things that I can do for other souls, even though even that can feel daunting at times. We have, perhaps, the briefest of respites between now and January. Let us lean into it. In the days ahead, please take care of yourselves. Rest. Find joy where you can. Have some fun. Laugh. It is really good for the soul. And if you can manage it, do a small, calm thing each day. And in saying this, I'm not suggesting that we run from the realities. Rather, do these simpler and joyful things now for two, well, actually, I realize I have 3 reasons. Doing it now, it may become more of a habit, and we will need such habits. And 2, whatever lies before us, the last thing our country needs is a bunch of anxious, despondent people. In those states, we are far more likely just to sit on the couch and watch more news, which makes us even more anxious. And a third thing. Do not isolate. I have heard from more than one person that under stress, they tend to stay home, hunker down, and just cut off all contact with others for at least some period of time. And while I very much understand that inclination, that kind of retreating serves neither them nor the world. You don't have to become any kind of extrovert. You don't have to. Just don't isolate. Engage with people and community. And also, though, do not try to jump right over your grief or anger or despair. How have those feelings manifested in you these last 5 days? Yes, it's only been 5 days. And then, on top of it all, the mountain fire swept through many of our neighborhoods. For pity's sake. It was a week. And I will tell you, as I say to anyone who is grieving, there is no wrong way to grieve. You may cry, or rage, or sleep, or despair, or go numb, or just binge watch something comforting. Post-election, and before I knew about the fire that morning, Wednesday morning, I had a brief time of this. I found myself jumping into it, analyzing what went wrong and how, and reading and listening to podcasts and thinking about that. And I don't know if I would have stopped myself, though the fire took care of that. So grieve as grief finds you. And note, please, what Catholic priest Richard Rohr says: pain that is not transformed is transmitted. Transforming grief can take time, though as long as we are processing it and getting to that place where it is transformed more and more, as long as we are in process, we will be less likely to transmit our pain onto others. And that does no one any good. Even if you think you're getting rid of your pain, you're not. You're compounding it, and you're giving it to someone else. And that is not a calm, small, calm thing at all. Now, one of the ways that I processed my pre-election anxiety was to reread The Lord of the Rings. I had heard a progressive activist on a podcast about how she had heard of people on the right who were trying to claim that narrative for conservatism, and she refused to cede that ground. And so I began rereading it myself along with her, probably for the fourth or fifth time. But it's been decades. How clear it became that Tolkien began writing his saga in 1930s England as the world faced a growing fascist threat. And he finished it in the 1950s after fascism was, well, mostly defeated. And here's an exchange between Frodo and Gandalf early in the Fellowship of the Ring. "I wish it need not have happened in my time," Frodo said. "So do I," Gandalf responded, "and so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us. I wish it need not have happened in my time. And it has." Clarissa Pinkola Estes wrote her letter to a young activist in troubled times at the beginning of the George W. Bush administration after the invasion of Iraq, more than 20 years ago. And still, here we are, and in these times, the ones we are made for have been rolling and rolling along, and still we are made for them. Right now, this day, what shall we do? The next right thing, the next kind thing, the next needful, joyful, calm thing, the next loving thing. Pick one and do it. And stay strong and committed to living your values, your convictions in the world. As my colleague, the Reverend Matthew Johnson says, "I refuse to compromise our vision of inclusion and liberation, especially for immigrants, refugees, LGBTQ people, the disabled, and Black women. There are already folks saying that Democrats should back off their efforts on trans inclusion and liberation. And I say to them, and I'm quoting Matthew, but I'm pleased to, and I say to them, don't you freaking dare. He goes on, did some voters decide that Democratic elites care more about pronouns than they care about the cost of food? Yes, they did. Those voters, not necessarily the Democrats, just making clear. Yes, they did. But the solution isn't to care less about LGBTQ people. The solution is to care more about the cost of food. Now, this is Matthew already starting down the path of analysis, for which I am grateful. I'm not ready to go there, but wow, thank you for sharing yours already, Matthew. The defeat of the Democrats was so thorough that we progressives are going to have to find new paths and strategies to see our values embodied in our civic and our community and our religious and our family lives. And that is going to take yet time. We don't have to. We can't fix it all right now. We will need to be ready to support and defend the most vulnerable among us. What happens in January may be blatantly awful or insidiously creeping. So we will need to be ready. And to be ready, we need to be rested. To be ready, we will need to create sanctuary as we do each time any of us gather. Create sanctuary again and again and again. Here, literally in this sanctuary, and in this abundant community that spills over it all the time. And we must create sanctuary not just for our weary souls, because it can still be tempting to kind of turn in, right? Build a wall, if not a literal one, a wall around our hearts. This cannot be the kind of sanctuary we are creating. We need to include all who are lost or vulnerable, and with conviction that we are each made holy and loved right through. With the understanding that what we seek is collective liberation. For we are all more free when more people are free. And yet still, this is still so much. It is overwhelming, gentle, calm, centered. I wish for you all of that as often as you can find it, because we will need it. But to that end, I offer these words from poet Rosemary Watola Trommer that gave me comfort, and I hope they do to you. She writes, so I can't save the world, can't even save myself, can't wrap my arms around every frightened child, can't foster peace among nations, can't bring love to all who feel unlovable. So I practice opening my heart right here in this room, being gentle with my insufficiency. I practice walking down the street heart first. And if that proves insufficient to share love, I will practice loving anyway. I want to converse about truth and trust. I want to invite compassion into every interaction When one willing heart cannot stop a war, one willing heart can't feed all the hungry. And sometimes, daunted by a task too big, I tell myself, what's the use of trying? But today, the invitation is clear: to be ridiculously courageous in love. To open the heart like a lilac in May, knowing freeze is possible and opening anyway. To take love seriously. To give love wildly. To race up to the world as if I were a puppy, adoring and unjaded, stumbling on my own exuberance. To feel the shock of indifference, of anger, of cruelty, of fear, and stay open. To love as if it matters, as if the world depends on it. So what the heck do we do? The next right thing. The kind thing, the needful, the joyful, the loving thing. What lies before us, I don't know what to do next. Oh, there's a stepping stone. That's the next right thing. Oh, and there's a kind thing. And with cojones and huevos and with shining souls and open hearts, knowing that even if we are down to the last tree will become the first. Amen. May it be so. We're going to close. It's going to be good. But first, I invite you into prayer. Holy beingness of many names and no name, that which holds all, grief, love, compassion, determination, joy. Spirit of life which dwells within and among and beyond us this day and always. May we be of good courage, ready to learn and change, clear about what matters most. May our souls shine forth that others might catch our light. And may we love as if the world depends on it, because it does. And may all those who are ill find healing. May those who are in despair find hope. May those who are without shelter find home. And may all those suffering in conflict and war in Gaza, Israel, Sudan, Ukraine, and so many other places, may they and may we know peace. Amen. And blessed be.
And now, our closing song is I Am Willing by Holly Near. And the words, once again, will be up on the screen. The choir is going to sing it through one time, and then we'll sing it 3 more times all together. Please rise in body or spirit.
So strange.
up to the light of change. I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us, so lift me up to the light of change. For I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us, so lift me up to the light of change. I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us, so lift me up to the light of change.
Please join me in reading the words on the screen as we prepare to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. Those we carry into our lives until we are together again.
So all here in this sanctuary today are invited after out into our community room for coffee, conversation, bagels, and carry the sanctuary with you, even out there. Make that a sanctuary too. You can drop by the round table. Actually, I don't know that the round table is out there. There's a round sign saying, there it is. Okay. Round sign over round table, connecting center. There are people there who are happy to talk with you about the church or the state of the world. We're good at that. You can also push cash or check at the back in the cash box at the back of the sanctuary. And those who are on Zoom, if you want to hang out in break rooms, people are getting better. You are getting better at dropping by and talking to the people who are in the break rooms out in Berg Hall. And those who wish to know more about this congregation and want to come to New to UU, it will begin at about 11:30, last about an hour, and the green room straight back that way. And I leave you with these words adapted from the Reverend Darcy Roque. There is too much hardship in this world not to find joy every day. There is too much injustice in this world not to right the balance every day. There is too much pain in the world not to heal every day. Each of us ministers to a weary world. Let us go forth now and do that which calls us to make this world more loving, more compassionate, and more filled with grace every day. Go forth in love. Go forth in peace. May it be so.